Welcome everybody. Good evening. I'm just waiting for others to log into the call. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Well, great. So welcome everybody. I'm Jasmin Kumar, an educationist, author of international bestseller, parenting coach, founder of Rayz International Preschool and Empowered Parents Forum, and also the national president for Women's India Chamber for Commerce and Industry into Elementary Education. Today I'm going to talk about a very important topic. That why is it that we as parents, we run after becoming perfect parents, which means to have children who listen to us, who eat their food in time, who study when required, who behave, who smile, and that list is endless, isn't it? Did you realize that in this definition of being a so-called perfect parent, it has everything that comprises of our expectations from our children? Now, why don't we realize that parenting is not about the child, but about the parent? Why don't we focus on being real as a parent and not run after becoming perfect? Accept the fact that children are going to throw tantrums. Children are going to be fussy eaters at times, Children may not listen to you always. So this is the reality. हम क्यों भागते हैं हमेशा उस perfect parent की definition जो हमारे दिमाग में है उसके पीछे क्यों भागते हैं? Maybe we look at other friend, outside and we start comparing ourselves that look at, hey, the way she's handling her child. Her child is listening to her. Her child is eating the food properly. However, my child doesn't do that. So stop comparing yourself, And haven't we been like that child during our childhood days too? So why don't we run after becoming that perfect parent when we can afford to be just real, we can be just us as parents? ये जो एक प्रेशर होता है पेरेंट्स को हमेशा एक परफेक्ट पेरेंट बनने के लिए it always keeps us awake at night, isn't it? And we think we have to be the best parent, and we may find ourselves nervous that we'll ruin our children at times. What if I tell you that in this next 30 minutes, even if you are frustrated, you are stuck, or you are unsure how to make changes in your parenting, this session will help you feel as a perfect parent in your parenting journey. What? Did I hear it right? I'm sure these words might be ringing in your mind. That is it even remotely possible to feel like a perfect parent if not to be a perfect parent? Well, the answer is no. But yes, there's the good news that why to run after becoming a perfect parent when you can be better off being real with some imperfections? How about that? So let's get started. See, parenting or जो perfectionism होते हैं, these are two words, that should never be used in one same sentence. And this is what I tell everybody. There is really no room for perfectionism once you become a parent. That doesn't mean that, you shouldn't strive to do your best to become a parent. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, really do everything, to ensure that you give a right livelihood, you give the right upbringing to your child. But the truth is that, all the close relationships involves ups and downs and emotional messiness and give and take. Parenting is definitely very exhausting. It is a tiring job. Sometimes we feel really trapped, into thinking that we need to be perfect parents all the time. Well, the truth is, we all have good moments and we also have some bad moments. Now, I will give you a certain example. For example, if you yell at your child because, he or she chooses to continue playing with the toys and, they're not agreeing and listening to you to come to the dining table when the food is being served. So, at times we as parents unconsciously, we take out all our stress onto our children. But then later, we do realize that, our child was not at fault. And then, poof, we go to a guilt trip, realizing that deep within, it was definitely not my child's fault. So, do you think that such episodes make you a bad parent? No. But the realization that as a parent can also be, as a parent, we can also be at a fault, and which is definitely a first step towards correction. and building that connection with the child. I personally believe, if you all ask me, that most of us as parents, we always try to put our best foot forward daily. We have to embrace the idea that we might end up screwing ourselves at times as parents, but then this is just a matter of life. Our goal is to pick ourselves every day, and even our children, and it is okay to say sorry and accept our mistakes, or many mistakes that we often come across into this entire journey, and try to figure it out, how to keep navigating, how to keep going full throttle on our path being the parents. Now, who doesn't want to be good enough and certainly the best? It is a very, very normal human psychology that whatever we do, we want to do it with full conviction. Whatever relationship, whether you are personally or professionally, you always want to give your 100%, isn't it? But then when you talk about a parent and a child relationship, our expectations, it comes with full force, right? Now, striving to be a perfect as a parents in all ways, expecting a partner to be perfect, or expecting our children to be perfectly behaved, perfectly excelling at school, eating perfectly, perfect in their relationships, perfectly sleeping, don't you think it's all ridiculous, isn't it? Now, remember how things worked before you had kids. Your house stayed exactly the way you left it. If you wanted to clean and organize it, you could do that, and count on it to stay that way, unless you decided on your own to let it go. It was completely your choice. Now enter kids. At first you try to stay on top of the things, right? If you are a person who's used to having a clean, uncluttered and organized house, and you like it that way, then kids present a real challenge that can feel quite uncomfortable to anybody for that matter. If you're good with chaos, then you may not feel that challenge as much. Now, especially it happens with the new parents, because we are not used to with this extra work when it comes to, cleaning the house often, in terms of decluttering all the time, so it becomes an additional responsibility, especially if you are a working parent as well, right? You have to, you might have to stay up later cleaning and vacuuming, or get up early, ask, your spouses to do more, or get babysitters so that they can do what needs to be done, helping you with the extra chores. There is perfectly no issues with that. Now, what happens is that, once we as parents, we start this trend, we tend to try and keep it going, regardless of how exhausting it is. Because we, in our aim, since the child is born, we just want to, it's all ingrained in our memory. It's all ingrained in our ecosystem that we just want to be perfect. We just want to rock it as a parent. We just don't want to leave any stone unturned to give our 100%. That is okay, but then the expectations should be little realistic, is all what I'm trying to say. Because if you have overachievable goals as parents in your life, this can lead to irritability, anger, tiredness, you become overwhelmed, and sometimes marital discord and unhappy kids is what you end up getting. So you have to be very, very careful when you are setting up your parenting goals for betterment of your own children, as well as for your own mental, good health, as well as the stability. Generally it's a proven fact that moms are the ones, who are more likely to get into this kind of a pattern. Although sometimes dad is the one, who insists on things staying the same while relegating the work to mom. So either way, it's a bad scene. So lower down your expectations, be real, don't run after becoming that perfect parent because you feel that your neighbor is that perfect parent, which you always feel that I personally should be. Or maybe, it's unconsciously the expectations which is coming wherever you're stepping out. So you always want to start comparing. If you happen to Google anywhere, perfect parent, what you're going to see is pictures of the models looking very thin, which definitely does not look more like a Indian female's body, which is, and even any mother for that matter across the globe. So don't look at those, portraits and pictures of mothers, because that is not the reality is. So be real, right? So, the reality is kids each time and they can use up 24 hours quite easily, especially our newborns as well as the toddlers. So you don't even know at times that, where all that time has went in your entire day. You just know that, all of a sudden it seems impossible to do the normal household chores you're used to handling without too much of a stress, right? So you must be thinking that, why is it that parents hang on to that parent, perfect environment habit? Why is it that it's all ingrained in our system? We don't have to prove it to anybody else. So why is it that we had so fixated on that becoming that perfect parent? The reason is very simple. A clean, uncluttered, organized, and spacious environment is definitely emotionally soothing for any human being, for that matter. For some of us, it can be calming and create both mental and emotional space. By cleaning up and organizing our outer world, you do the same for your own inner world as well, right? Nothing wrong with that at all. I ascribe it to myself as well. Now, it's just that when you have kids, especially the younger kids, and definitely the kids under the age group of 3, who are like infants and moving on to the toddlers, you have to let go, of some of that if you are going to enjoy that younger years and give your kids what they need from you, which is both practically and emotionally as well, right? I think it is important, to say to yourself and accept that for the time being, you're going to let go of some of your more perfectionist trends in the house. When your kids get older, you can return to some of those old habits, although it never generally, stops entirely until they leave home. But that is the part of the joy of having kids. So my advice is, if you have a choice between right now mopping the kitchen floor and getting on the floor to play with your child for a while, pick the play. It will go a long way in enhancing your relationship with your child, but also help your child to further develop that relationship. Understand what is it to, have a mother and a child relationship, what is it to have a father and a child relationship. Because think about it, when you're going to grow older, and your kids have left home for their higher studies, which activity or which moments of their childhood that you have spent with them, you are going to remember fondly. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be about mopping that kitchen floor, but you will definitely remember those moments which with your kids, that where you spent playing, where you spent connecting, where you spent being real, and where you are not going overboard with just trying to be perfect, right? Now, let me ask you one thing. Have you ever gotten so upset with your child that you either said or did something that you later regretted? I'm sure many of us, or rather most of us, go through this kind of a moment not once or maybe a couple of times in a day as well. If you did, congratulations, you have obviously reached the sainthood, but it is human to err. Remember that one, okay? Of course you do, because it is true. No one can be perfect, nor should we expect it for ourselves as well. Perfect is just out of reach of anyone. Trust me. Nor should it be also, as your aim in anything, whatever you do, to be just perfect. Set your goals, set your expectations, which are, which does not consume you completely, because you are your own priority, right? The messy, hair, the messy house, the stains, the tantrums, the snuggles, the laughter, crumbs on the floors, piles of washing, forgetting, but remembering the piles of other things. Raising kids, keeping kids clothed, fed all the time, going to school, of course, which is not happening right now, extracurricular activities, and the imperfections, are what creates that beauty, that challenge, and that meaning of parenting entirely, isn't it? If it all went that perfectly, then it wouldn't have had any meaning, for that matter. So anything that challenges us makes us grow, whether in our personal relationship or in our professional field, right? Now, I'm sure most of you would also agree to me that, when you are imperfect, you're teaching your kids that it is okay you not be perfect too. When you lose it, move on and let it go. Don't we experience all this in our own journey as well, whether we are professionally engaged, whether in our personal relationships, we do often come across situations where we accept our imperfections. We just don't want to cross those boundaries. We know that this is what it is, so you have to put a full stop somewhere. And this is a beautiful learning, which you can actually teach to your children. Children don't know what are big emotions. They need to come through the parents. So if you're going to try to go overboard in parenting, and it might, you might just end up losing your own self. You might just, I'm sure most of you have spent time crying in the washroom, or perhaps calling, making those midnight calls to your friends, yelling that, what has happened? My body doesn't look the same anymore. I don't have that me time anymore. When am I going to get back into that same old life of mine? So why do we feel all these feelings? It is natural to feel this way because we are expecting a lot. Our expectations that we perhaps manifested from our own selves, now we expect all that from our children, and we are unconscious about this, that all this is what we are doing. And we do this full force into the parent and a child relationship because there is this parental ego which comes roaring in full velocity and ferocity. So parents, hang in there. You don't have to, and you don't really want to go to that arena that, where there's no, comeback happening. So where and how all this begins, this pressure of parenting starts pretty early in life. So especially if you are a hardwired perfectionist, हर तरह के पेरेंट्स होते हैं. कुछ पेरेंट्स ऐसे होते हैं कि when they are in the phase of pre-planning the children, they are hardwired perfectionists, long before they're even expecting. I'm sure some of you, if you have been under that category of parents, you would have done a lot of research about it. You might have been worried about all the things you thought that you would need to know before you jump into this arena, which is an unknown terrain of having a child. How to feed, how to find the best gear for babies, how to help a baby, develop the healthy sleep habits, the right music classes for brain development, and etc., etc. So rest of the drill. And all this is normal, right? But as it turns out, the parent and worries you imagine in those pre-child days is a far cry from the parent you're turning out to be now. Pre-child, you might have envisioned engaged playdates, calm and present conversations, all the moments, and a clear separation between your role as a parent and the multiple other roles that you play. All those are equally important in your life. But the reality is, you are a parent who sometimes yells, often bargains, gets frustrated, multitasks most of the times in the day, and occasionally cries elephant tears in frustration in the washroom. So this is what the reality is. So why do we want to, push ourselves to that brink of, being at that stage where we just lose ourselves, right? So it's important. If you're a parent today who is able to relate with what I'm telling you, it's the first step. It's the first step to understand, my friends, that where we are going wrong in our parenting journey. So we still have, time to course correct, to kind of unlearn certain things, and just move on with the parenting journey. Now, hear this out very clearly. The more flawed and real you become, I will repeat this, the more flawed and real you become, the more authentic your child can be. Letting go of the expectations to be perfect all the time and laughing on silly jokes so often feels good. It feels real. It feels more human. So stop being someone else in your parent-child relationship. Rather, focus on being you as a mother, as a father, as a couple, as a family together. There is no one size fits for all strategy in parenting. Everyone in the parenting is on their own journey. Whatever works for me as a parent may not work for you as a parent or for anybody else as a parent. We all are in our own terrain, in our own journey, right? I agree and I hear you that parenting can be extremely frustrating, especially when faced with children who are not getting it right. They might be messy, they might be disorganized, they might be rude, they might be unpunctual, they could be terrible in mathematics or any other subject for that matter. But then And I know it can be very tough for you as a parent, but then this is of course not what you have signed up for. So what you had thought of becoming a parent one day, right? So this feeling of burning out, this feeling of self-doubt, this feel of uh, guilt and a creeping sense of resentment, these are all very, very common feelings. So parenting definitely is it's a lot of hard work for the parents. I remember that when I was a mother, the thing that used to petrify me was the fact that this little human being, its life was completely dependent uh, upon us, upon me and my husband. I have also been through sleepless nights, obsessing over every ounce of milk taken, or any morsel which was being rejected by the child. The trips to the doctor, the first steps of the child, the first words heard or imagined, the first day at school. They are all etched in our memory forever, right? And the guilt we carry for everything that does not go well. And we suddenly start feeling in just no second that, hey, you're a terrible mother, you're a terrible father, and I can't even control my children. Shame, guilt, self-blame, embarrassments they all start gradually becoming our nagging companions. We are so quick in judging ourselves for everything we do or we believe we do wrong. Studies too have proven, parents, especially mothers, that emotional well-being is the key to the child's well-being too. So remember we often heard in the flight security announcement that in case of lack of oxygen, first take care of yourself, then your child. So the same strategy also goes for parenting. It is transformational, it's painful, it's frightening, it's overwhelming, it's joyful at the same time, right? So now I will tell you certain things that you as a parent can do to ensure that you come out of this situation of being the perfect parent all the time. So and just to be available for your child whenever they need you to be there, right? First thing, be imperfect. This is something which I personally also implement on myself. Let's admit the fact that our society and our social media, it reveres the Pinterest parenting, where mothers are expected to manage it all, look perfect, like I was mentioning a while back, run a perfect home, be perfect in their work, and have perfectly turned out children. Now, as a reformed perfectionist, I can confess that there was a time I used to get myself all anxious, about being an imperfect mother. It took me also some time initially to realize that it was actually turning parenting into a burden, by obsessing all the time about it. Trying to be a perfect parent can be damaging for our children as we pass on this virus is what I would like to call that, we pass on this virus. As they feel the pressure of being perfect to keep us feeling good about ourselves as well, So this unconsciously, this pressure comes onto our children too. So many a times this leaves them struggling with depression, anxiety, and even eating disorders, and they carry this kind of a feeling of never, being good enough. So this is the kind of a negative impact which our chase for having those perfect child can actually unconsciously affect negatively on our children as well. So parents, spare yourself all the fretting and the worrying. It's all right. You do not have to be perfect, and you can mess up at times. It's okay. Parenting is definitely not a race. You're not here to compare yourself with any other parents. So whenever you feel in this kind of a fix, just follow this strategy. Pause, take a deep breath, and just let it be. Okay, do that. So second thing which I would like to talk about is self-comparison, self-compassion. I do believe that that only if we love ourselves, that's the only time when we can actually love others. We can't give our children what we don't have. If my cup of happiness is empty, what is it that I'm going to give to my relationships around, my people around, people at my in my professional engagement? So if you are not nurturing or loving yourself, then you are not really in a position to love your children too. So mothers who demand a certain level of perfectionism from themselves can be particularly very, very critical, right? They are very harsh on themselves for every slip or every mistake that the mothers do in this kind of a journey. So to be self-compassionate, it is to accept that parenting can be messy, it can be stuffy at times, and it is best to accept that mistakes are inevitable. It is going to happen. So self-compassion is actually to kind of tell ourselves that I am enough and that I need to take care of myself first, and only then I will be able to take care of my children, my family, and every relation that I nurture. So enjoy that cup of coffee while reading your book. Whenever you get a little time, if you get a little break, go out with your friends for a little meal, which of course is not possible in the COVID times right now, or probably just go take a nap in the middle of the day if you're feeling depleted in the energy, right? It is all right. If that is what is going to nurture you, then this is something which you deserve, right? Third thing, which I feel is again very important and it goes a long way, is playfulness and joy. In our growing up world, I know it seems a bit ridiculous to talk about playfulness because it sounds frivolous, juvenile, and silly maybe. But however, I feel that playfulness, it needs to be at the core of who we are as people and how we live our lives. I believe that our playfulness quotient, is the single determinant of our quality of life. So don't let this play move out of your life. So let trying your body go and feel yourself come alive. Roll up those sleeves and loosen that tie and kick off those heels. Crawl with your toddler, jive with your teenager, shake a little leg, kick that ball, splash around with your kids in the pool, which is of course not possible again right now, and goof around in the local park. So notice how your whole body, and your mind feels injected with new invigorating energy. So whenever you feel yourself stressed out as a parent, do go out with your child, or even if when you're confined at home during the lockdown, it's important that you engage yourself into some physical activity with your kids, because there is an amazing body of evidence which indicates that playfulness definitely decreases the stress hormones like cortisol, and on the other hand, it increases that happiness chemicals in our body, which are endorphins, right? And it, of course, brings more immunity, boost our uh, you know boost our immunity, and lowers the blood pressures, and there are multiple uh, benefits of being physically active, right? So the healthy dose of happy hormones we can nurture and strengthen bonds for life when we are actually engaging our children with laughing, with dancing, with singing, being crazy, being wacky, being silly, right? So please do that. Now, another and the last most important thing which I would want to talk about is that it's also equally important that you know your kids. How often do you want to spend time knowing your own children? We are so busy, in raising another mini me, another miniature version of ours, that we actually don't get to spend time understanding how our children are different human beings than us. How are they shaping up? How are they developing? What is it that their likes? What is it that certain things which they don't enjoy doing? So it's important that you really need to understand your children as well. And I'm often surprised by how many parents believe that children are essentially like sugar cookies. You give them all the same ingredients, cut them the same way, bake them at the same temperature, and they are bound to come out the same. So definitely this is not the ideology which is going to work. So parents, it's important that you spend time. And now COVID is definitely, I would say, a blessing in disguise for all of us, because prior to this we have always complained about that we don't get time, we don't get enough time to spend with our children, with our families, in building that bond, creating that family connection again with our kids. So this is a time when you can actually spend and make it a memorable time for your family, wherein you at least spend 15 to 20 minutes every day. I tell it to all my parents as well, that do spend 15-20 minutes every day, and if you want to extend this time, that's totally a bonus or a cherry on the cake. So in those 15-20 minutes, you let the child decide how he or she would want to spend that time with you as a parent, where that phone call can wait to be answered, where that email can wait to be responded, where other chores which you are zillions of chores that you are involved into, all that can wait to be undertaken. So that time is your time, your me time with your children. Let them decide how they want to spend that time. Maybe Lego play, or you want to do a little story if your children are a little smaller, or if your children are teenagers. So maybe just cook up a movie that day, bring some bowl of popcorn and sit together and enjoy the movie. So this time is never going to come back, friends. So don't extend yourself, don't stretch yourself, make the most of this time, right? So because most of us, as parents, we feel like tremendous failures, at some point or the other. We are just never going to raise our children without making mistakes. Accept this fact, even the big ones. I have a simple belief: if a mother is happy, then this is the best for their children. If the father is happy, this is the best for their children. Because children thrive when we as parents who are happy, who are joyful, are ready to enjoy them, right? Now I'm going to give you one small parenting challenge before I close this call out. I challenge you to reflect after this call on any area where you you think that you have been tough on yourself as a parent, and then you give yourself some grace to be imperfect. You're not a super mom or a super dad. You're actually quite human. So the next time you have a day where you have raised your voice loudly, you have become exasperated, you've lost your cool, or made one of 1,000 parenting blunders, reset and try again tomorrow, or the next several tomorrows. Parenting parents is not about perfection, as this is something which is not achievable. It is about refinement. So thank you, everyone. With this, I would like to close my call today. I hope you enjoyed the session, you got some valuable takeaways, and it would definitely help you out in taking the rest of the part of your parenting journey in a more better, in a more joyful, and in a more self-satisfying way. Thank you so much. God bless you all.